Okay, today I'm going to tell you exactly how to train for Comrades Marathon. I'll break down how to work back from the goal. I'll tell you about my key training blocks and the sessions that define my preparation. But more importantly, I'll give you an honest reflection of what went wrong, what I learned, and how failure can sometimes teach you way more than success. I'm Grantham, a coach and elite ultra runner who went from running a marathon in 4 hours and 25 minutes to finishing 12th place at Comrades Marathon. If you're currently training for Comrades or any other distance race, especially marathon or ultra marathon, and you know you're capable of way more, but you just need to do the right things well, get in contact by booking a call in the description. Now, Comrades is the most competitive ultramarathon on the planet, and it has been for such a long time. So you've got the beauty of the race, you've got the beauty of South Africa, but you've also got the history of the race, which is fantastic. And I remember being on the start line and literally the hairs on the back of my neck were standing up. So my thinking was very simple. I need to run 330 minutes or 5 hours and 30 minutes divided by 88 kilometers equals 3 minutes and 45 seconds per kilometer. Now, one year you've got the downhill run, like this year, where you're starting in St. Petersburg and finishing in Durban. The year that I did it, I started in Durban and I went to St. Petersburg. So it's a net uphill. The races are very, very similar, and I chose to do the uphill race because that's where I felt I had the best chance to win the race. When you're preparing for Comrades Marathon, exactly as I did, I had my target in mind, so I knew how quickly I wanted to move over the ground. Each kilometer, but also factoring in the hills. For the uphill run, you got 12.5 kilometers worth of uphill at an average of 6 to 7%. So nothing crazy. Everyone talks about the hills at Comrades. It's mainly the downhills that are going to get you in a long race like 88 kilometers. Exactly the same in Passatorre, where you've got to go 10 kilometers up and then 10 kilometers down. If your quads are not prepared for that downhill, you're going to get found out. And so even for the up year, you want robust lower legs, you want robust quads, because you don't want to have that delay in the final half or the final third of the race. You want to be able to push, which is exactly what I prepared for in my training. Now here's where it gets a bit easier for you. Training for Comrades Marathon or training for anything from 80 to 100 kilometers, it's not so much different from training for a marathon. And you'll see that in the training that I'm about to show you. What's important to do is to get ready to take that specific training. For me, the specific training towards Comrades was 4 months, so 16 weeks, a little bit longer than my typical marathon build-up of 13 weeks specific. But then before that, I started to put in the work towards Comrades in December, January. So I'm getting myself to a point where there's plenty of volume. I've built my volume up for the week, and I've also built my volume up cycling so that once I start to do the specific stuff, the body can handle it. With any goal, especially a big goal like running Comrades or winning Comrades, half the battle is you trying to push to the limits without breaking yourself, without getting injured. If you can do that, you're going to have relative success. So here are 4 typical weeks on the build-up to Comrades Marathon. Week 1, 83 kilometers running, 250 kilometers on the bike. Week 2, 90 kilometers running, 200 kilometers on the bike. Week 3, 115 kilometers running, 220 kilometers on the bike. And week 4, 80 kilometers running and 170 kilometers on the bike. Now for me, there are 4 parts of my training that are slightly different to your typical runner, but are definite strengths when it comes to training for something like Comrades. Number 1 is heat training. I'm always in hot countries. So I live between Granada in the south of Spain and Chiang Mai, where I am at the moment, in the north of Thailand, which means that year round I'm running in minimum 25 degrees Celsius and usually up to 40 to 45 degrees Celsius. And I will purposely train in the hottest part of the day. When you're not just training in the heat, but you're in the heat all day long, not only do you become acclimatized to that, it becomes very regular for you. So all of a sudden, if I go to, for example, London Marathon and it's 20 degrees Celsius, which is hot for Brits, it feels cold for me because I'm used to training in 30 to 40 degrees Celsius. Heat training also makes your cooling system and your metabolism extremely efficient. But the biggest part for me is it's all about making race day feel easier. The second part of my training that's different is environment. It's important for me to be in the mountains. I'm in the mountains right now in Chiang Mai. I'm in the mountains when I'm in Granada. It gives me access to run on undulating courses up and down, very, very similar to the Comrades course. Comrades is on the road, so you can find roads wherever you are. You can find that surface. Can you find 1 to 3 kilometer hills that are 6, 7, 8% gradient? That's what really matters to me, not just running up them, but running down them. And if I wasn't living between Granada and Chiang Mai, in order to be successful at Comrades, I would move to the course and train in those conditions. The third part of my training, which is slightly different to your typical elite athlete, is that there's a lot of cycling in my running. And the reason for that is, first of all, it's sustainable over long periods of time. So you can be out there in zone 1, zone 2, and essentially for 4, 5, 6 hours, it's another long run without the impact on the body. What you also get from cycling as a supplement to your overall training is the way that you're using the muscles on the bike is very similar to when you're going and running uphill. That's a nice crossover to have and will make you stronger on running uphill. What you'll also see from that training is it means that my total volume can be really big. And therefore, when I start to get specific in those last 8 to 16 weeks, I can reduce the volume on the bike, put that over to running, and even reduce the volume in running and just target very specifically the key sessions, the interval session and the long run. Number 4. What that allowed me to do in that training block was, because my total volume was so big with the cycling and the running, I could run slightly less, and that could be very specific towards that midweek interval session and the weekend long run. I was still doing the recovery runs and easy runs, but they didn't need to be as long because I was spending so much time on the bike. Now that is available to anybody, anywhere in the world, because you've got indoor turbo trainers now. What I would say is you don't want to neglect the running. So what I'd done previously to this, and this is the build-up phase towards the specific phase of Comrades, there's a lot more running in there. And these are my last 11 long runs towards Comrades Marathon. A marathon in training, so 42 kilometers at 3 minutes and 59 pace, so 2 hours and 47. 25 kilometers at 3 minutes and 31 pace, so 1 hour and 28 minutes. Then I did Madrid Marathon. I think there's 3 marathons within this training block. Highly recommend you do marathons as part of your build-up. There's 42 kilometers in 3 minutes and 34 pace. That's 2 hours and 31. And then another 42 kilometers a couple of weeks before that in 3 minutes and 54 pace, so 2 hours and 43. Then 30 kilometers just 6 days before that in 3 minutes and 54 pace again, so 1 hour and 57. And 25 kilometers at 3 minutes and 55 pace, so 1 hour and 37. 25k at 3 minutes and 46 pace, so 1 hour and 34. Then I did a race in Chiang Mai, 42 kilometers at 3 minutes and 43 pace, which was 2 hours and 36. And that took a lot out of me. That was a stupid thing to race, but I just wanted to take the win. Then I did another race in the Maldives, another marathon, 42 kilometers at 4 minutes and 4 seconds pace, 2 hours and 48. And then I ran 100 minutes, so 1 hour 40 at 3 minutes and 37 seconds per kilometer, to 27.6 kilometers. And then I did 32 kilometers at 3 minutes and 45 pace, so 1 hour 59. Now what you can see there is there is no long run that I did before Comrades Marathon that was more than a marathon. So I was running a lot of 25 kilometers to 42 kilometers, so 11 runs you can see there. But for me, it was all about the pacing. So if you're currently training for a marathon or an ultra marathon and you don't think your long runs have been enough, stop fretting about it. It's more to do with the specificity of the long run and your ability to take in your nutrition strategy during the training. What you'll realize from those 11 long runs is there is no long run that I did before Comrades Marathon that was longer than a marathon. So if you're currently training for a marathon or an ultra marathon and you're thinking you've not gotten long enough in your long run, think again and stop worrying. What's important for me in the build-up to something like that, and it's a very specific race, but it's obviously a long race where you're going to be out there between 5.5 and 6 hours, is the specificity of the runs. I want to be working towards race pace. So my race pace, if you remember to the start of the video, I want to be moving over the ground at 3 minutes and 45 seconds. So all of those long runs, you'll realize, are between 3 minutes and 30 seconds and 4 minutes. So instead of going out there and running long, slow distance and being out there for time on your feet, how about working specifically and working towards the pace that you're trying to achieve on race day? Getting very comfortable at that, and in your intervals running slightly faster. Did it mean because I'd only ran 42 kilometers in training and I ran 88 kilometers on the day that I faded in the second half, and especially towards the finish? Absolutely not. And you can check the data, and if you look, the second half is relatively quicker than the first, and I passed a lot of people in that second half. You've got to have confidence in your nutrition strategy. You've got to have worked with that in your training, and you've got to have worked specifically to the pace that you want to be running in your marathon or your ultra marathon. Now, as I said at the start of the video, I went to Comrades Marathon to win the Comrades Marathon. It's the most competitive ultra race on the planet, so it was an ambitious goal, but realistic. Did I achieve what I set out to do? No, I failed and I came 12th, but I wouldn't change anything about the training. The training, both the build-up phase and the specific phase, had been absolutely perfect, and I would do exactly the same again. I was ready in order to win the race, but I didn't execute properly on race day, mainly because of the last 2 or 3 weeks, the taper before the race. Whatever it is you're training for, whether it's 5K, half marathon, marathon or ultra marathon, it's really important to aim high. It's really important for that goal to excite you and also make you a little bit nervous that you might not be able to take it on. Because when you aim high and you fall short, it's likely that you're going to land further than if you would have aimed safe and just hit your target.